the difference between regionals and nationals, my like journey hasn't really been as different because I've always liked preparing for things. I love feeling ready. I love feeling like I'm knowing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like preparing. So I don't think I really even lost that. I think I actually may have prepared more for nationals after winning the regional title, just because like, okay, I'm gonna do this. If I have the opportunity, I'm going to go for this full force. I'm gonna do everything in my like possibilities, everything in my hands to have this chance. And whatever happens, happens. Like after my interviews, I was like, everything's out of my hands now. I've done all I can do, and I love that feeling of feeling like you come to your interview and you're like, I know what I did right,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done so much to get like to that point. I think that's the best feeling after preparing for so long. And like I went into crowning for nationals, and I don't know if you know the story about this,
Mm-hmm.
but my phone kept glitching out.
Oh.
So when they announced our like top five, I heard my name and then it totally cut out. So
Oh, that must have been so
before,
stressful.
yeah, right before I was crowned, I was like, oh no, like I think they already crowned Western Canada, like I'm done for.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sophia's like, no, we're still going. We haven't crowned Western Canada yet. And I was like, oh, just gave me a mini heart attack there for a minute. But it was so stressful. But I think in the end, it was definitely worth the stress, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah. I can definitely identify with that feeling of like winning a provincial title and then having this responsibility to do better and to not just, like take it easy and think, oh, yeah, I've got this. Because I feel like a lot of people would think that once you win that provincial title, like a lot of title holders are easygoing, but that's absolutely not the case because now we're not just representing ourselves, right? We're representing a whole province and we have to try and do our very best for that because if we don't do a good job, then that would reflect badly not just on us, but on our entire province. And I felt that weight on my shoulders was a big thing that drove me forward. And I can clearly see it did for you too, because look at the rewards you reaped after working so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you work so hard and
Mm-hmm.
then, but I think that stress, as, stressful as it can truly be, I think it's actually, if I can put it in one way, it'd be like a good stress.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Definitely.
nice to have that stress that it's like, okay, we've succeeded once, we can do this again, we know what we're doing. It's like that. And then truly, like, especially with what you said about like how some people like, you'll win and you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to prepare for national stuff like that. And that's the thing is that actually drove me to
Mm-hmm.
compete more because it's like, okay, I have people I'm representing now, and I need to do the best I possibly can in my hands.
Mm-hmm. And exactly, I feel like another thing is since it's a virtual pageant, things go a little bit differently than doing in person pageants, and people tend to take it a bit lightly when it's virtual. Like, okay, I just need to send in my submissions, and I don't really need to worry about anything other than that. And I feel like that's one of the biggest misconceptions because since it's completely virtual, it's all on you to do your preparation and to take responsibility for everything that you're doing. It's not as though you go to a pageant and it's just pageant weekend or pageant week where everything is organized for you and you just go through it. It's more, here is what I have to do, and I need to do my best to look as good as possible and be the best title holder that I can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the best thing about it being virtual, and I don't think people like realize this enough, is that if you went to regionals, you're competing against a whole new set of
Mm-hmm.
girls when it comes to nationals, and it's that challenge of getting new people, getting to know new people is even the best part. Like we now, like I speak for myself, but I know you do too. We now have like friends all over the country and
Exactly.
outside of the country thanks to pageantry.
Mm-hmm. And I know you talked about also how in your interview, once you left the interview room, it wasn't just stress about, oh my goodness, how did I do? It was more confidence that I did well enough and I know that I've prepared. Can you speak more about that for maybe contestants who aren't very good at interviews or don't know how to go through that whole process and feel good about the way they've performed?
Absolutely. I think most of it comes into like building yourself up, figuring out who you are, what you're here
Mm-hmm.
for. Like just who you are is the biggest thing. Is like you're not competing against anyone else. Like when I went into my interview for nationals, I was like, I'm not competing against anyone else. I'm competing against myself.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know myself. I need to know who I am, what I'm doing here, what I want to do, and what I want to see happen is the biggest thing. And like, they'll ask you some weird questions when you go into it, but the biggest thing is to take a deep breath, answer those questions, and if you're anxious or if you're scared or anything, I've even said at the beginning of my interviews, I've literally told my judges that come out and be like, well, I'm stressed out, just so you know, so by the way, I'm stressed, and we're going to do this. The biggest thing is like making sure that you know what you're doing, and you just need to know yourself. Like, you can't control what those judges do. If they don't see you as the perfect fit, that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That doesn't mean that you did something wrong in your preparation. That just means, well, maybe you're not the right title holder at this time. There's always a time for someone. Everyone has their time in the spotlight. Everyone has their chance. And right now, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe we need to do more preparation. Maybe we need to turn around, go look at ourselves more, figure out who we are even more, and then come back, do it again, and we're going to do it 100 times better.
Exactly. And for me, I think one of the biggest mindset shifts was the judges are not wanting you to fail. When you go into that room, it seems like all of the judges are staring you down and you're like so scared thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to make a single mistake. But the biggest deal is that you're going to make mistakes. You're a human being, and the judges know that too, right? They want you to succeed, and they're looking for reasons why you should be the next title holder. And your job is simply to just go in there, be who you are, and give them those reasons to. It's like your elevator pitch, essentially, for why you should be the title holder. And you shouldn't look at it as the judges want me to fail. No, they absolutely want you to succeed because on the panel so far the judges have only been women and we want to see each other succeed, right? And I think that's the biggest part of it. It's women wanting women to do better, to grow more. And it's so easy to look at the judges as the villains if you maybe don't place that time or maybe don't win that title. But again, like you said, maybe you're not ready. Maybe this is just not your time because good things are coming for you. You just need to wait and prepare yourself as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's the way I come into it. It's like, I get out of the interview, everything's out of my hands. If it's the right time, it's the right time. If it's not, then we're going to go prepare again and we're going to do it all over again with more energy, with as much as I have in me, with more preparation. The biggest thing is it's like dance. It's like any sport. You want to leave everything you got there. You want to leave everything you got in your videos, in your interview, on social media, all of that. The biggest thing is just put all your effort into it. It's just, you need to just put out all of your energy. Leave it all out there. If you leave it all out, you can't blame yourself for doing something wrong. You can't do any of that because you did everything in your power to get this title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned that you wanted to bring attention to Southern Alberta's Halo Air Ambulance. Could you share more about that?
So technically, my whole platform right now is supporting childhood illness and being an advocate for childhood illness. I was diagnosed with celiac disease when I was 2, and as of 2021, I herniated a disc in my back. And in the hospital, I was not treated well by doctors, and I see what happens with adolescent patients when, you don't look sick or you don't look like you're in pain. The biggest thing is there's no looking sick. There's no being too young to have these problems. I've been struggling with my physical health and all of that for a long time. And seeing the way doctors go into it is really my mission, is seeing that doctor and them not, how do I say this right? Just not believing you. The feeling of not being believed because you're too young or you don't look sick doesn't feel good. I've left doctors' rooms crying because of those things. And I just want to be able to, with my story, impact even one person. If it impacts one person, it can help many others. And truly, I just don't want anyone to ever have to go through that. I don't want everyone to have to feel like they're victimized or being gaslighted because they're not sick enough or they don't look like they're supposed to be sick. That's the biggest thing. But as well, I have worked with the Halo Air Ambulance with Southern Alberta, and they are, think of your ambulances, but for rural areas, when you're on the farm, if there's something that goes wrong, You will call the Halo Air Ambulance. They will be there on that spot. They will fly out to you. They will fly you back to the hospital.
Oh.
They would do all of that. So the biggest thing is being able to support them, because living in rural Alberta, where I am right now, we are all covered with farmland. There are so many farms and acreages around us that, sometimes an ambulance can't get out that far fast enough, or they can't get to certain areas. So it's having Halo there to help us out, so we know that, if something happens to me and an ambulance can't get to me, there is someone there.
Mm-hmm. And what got you involved with the air ambulance in specific? Like in the beginning, what made you interested in this? I know you live in a rural area, but like, what made you decide that this is what you wanted to support?
Actually, that came after finding my platform.
Oh.
So once I totally figured out that, I need to fully bring attention to what's happening with childhood illness and things like that, I was like, finding also people or organizations in my community that I'm able to work with that can also help emphasize that at the same time, or emphasize someone's physical health. So I just kind of decided to work with them on that. With that, it was a little bit after, it was definitely after my platform, I fully, figured out that this was the right thing for me, and like this is what I need to do. So yeah, I'm just kind of working with different organizations in my community, as well as the Medicine District Health Foundation, Halo Air Ambulance, different community groups like that.
How would you say your advocacy has changed ever since you won that title? What would you say you did differently, or what would you say maybe a perspective change that occurred?
I don't think it was a perspective change. I think it was more giving me the drive. At the beginning, I felt like I was just saying that was my platform instead of doing or showing that this is what I want to be doing. I'm now going in at the end of January and talking to a group of teachers at my school on our school board about, what it looks like to have someone who has a chronic illness in your classroom. And, they may not look sick, but here's ways to help them. This is what they're going through, stuff like that. I'm also arranging right now to talk with nursing students at universities and colleges, as well as doctor students or doctors at different conferences, about not dismissing people depending on their age or the way they look, or if they don't look sick, or if it's, whatever's going on. I just want to be able to emphasize that. And that's what I'm doing now more than ever, is just, going out, I'm speaking, I'm telling my story, I'm sharing everything I possibly can. I've worked with the Dominic Strong Foundation in Medicine Hat and have given a speech on the Alberta Children's Hospital, and the way they've helped me be able to combat my chronic illnesses, be able to live with them, and be able to have a normal life to some extent. So it's just different things like that. I think that was the change, was just giving me more of a drive. The crown and the crown and the sash doesn't make the person. It's the person who makes the crown and sash. So you just need to be able to fulfill that role. And I think with it, it's given me more of a drive and the ability to do different things.
That's a really beautiful thought. And I love how after you won the crown, the sash, it wasn't, that's the end, I've accomplished my goal. It was, what can I do more with this? And I think that's really beautiful. And it's amazing that you were able to accomplish so much. But what would you say is a good way to think of a platform for any of the girls that are struggling, maybe the girls who don't know what they want to advocate for, but they really need to look for something for a pageant, or not just a pageant, but in their daily lives? Because I think platforms are such an important thing, not just to have if you're in a pageant, but just how are you going to leave your mark on this world? What do you want to support? So, how would you say a young woman or anybody can look for that?
The biggest way would be look what's happening around you. Look what's happening in your day-to-day life that you just that doesn't sit right with you. That's the first way I went into it, was something that just didn't sit right with me. And I found what that was. I figured out how to do it, or how to describe it to someone, and then just made that change. The thing is that I think we've all went into pageantry with I want to be able to do something in my lifetime that is going to make my mark, that's going to leave my footprint, that's going to make it so that I know at the end that I've done things in my life that most people haven't even got the opportunity to. If you're going into a pageant and you need to find a platform, you need to know who you are first. It's so hard to find a platform when you don't know who you are. If you don't know what you want to accomplish or what you want to do, it's very hard to be like, oh, well, I want my platform to be this, this, and this. I've seen people come in and be like, okay, I want my platform to be like something certain. And then I see them change it because they're like, I finally found who I am and found what's right. I found what I need to do. I found out who I am. I found out all of this. And then it's like, you really just need to find out who you are first. You need to find out who you are, what's going on around you that you don't like, or that you would love to change, but you're not sure how. And then you take those first steps and you start that. Whatever those first steps are, even if it's a bottle drive, that's the first step. That's not a small step. That's still a big step. You're making change no matter what you're doing. Say you're having a conversation with someone, just the way me and you are. You're still making a change about something. That's the biggest thing.
I feel like you're so 100% right on this. It's when you are looking for a platform, you need to go soul searching a bit. You need to think, who am I and what do I want to stand for? As in, when I leave this world, what do I want to be remembered by? And think about what makes you you. And I think once you figure that out, once you have that foundation, then you can focus on building a platform. Because it seems very self explanatory, right? To say, I know myself, or to say that you can talk about your interests, your hobbies, everything openly. And in interview practice specifically, you need to be very good at immediately picking out points in your life to explain certain questions, for example. And I think it's very important to be able to be in touch with who you are so that you can spread more happiness, more light, more joy into this world, because that's really what a platform is, right? It's trying to make a positive change. And I think that's such a beautiful message of pageantry. And I would say, specifically in personality pageants, the platform matters so much in our overall score that it's such a good way to build that foundation for, even if you don't win the crown, this is what you have that you can go on and do in your life. This is something that you can make your own personal mission, whether you choose to pursue pageantry even after that or whether you don't.
Absolutely. Like every woman who's came into, every young woman or woman in general that has come into personality pageants has all come with a very good platform.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think, the fact of saying personality pageants in the name that gives people more drive to do that soul searching.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, that's, I think, the best way to put it is that, this is an amazing group of women that we have competing through personality pageants all together, not just in Canada. And they all have the drive to do something. And we all have left, crown or not, with so much self growth. I can talk, like, I've talked to past contestants, I've talked to so many girls from last year's even competition, and they're like, I have learned so much about myself. I have learned so much that I can go into my day to day life and I'm able to have full conversations with people. I'm able to have a good work interview. I'm able to have a good job interview. I can be a good coworker. Things like that is like just the growth that you see through this system is crazy because we all come in for a purpose. We all come in for the purpose of change in general, whether it's personal change, whether it's changing something. We all come in with the purpose of change, and we all leave with some sort of change.
Exactly.
Whether that is through your platform, whether it's just through competing and learning more about yourself and who you are and what makes you you, I think that's the best thing about this system altogether.
I think what's amazing is that when you consider how long the pageant actually took, it was not more than a few weeks. And I feel like that's such an incredible thing that you can go on that whole journey. You can find out so much about yourself. You can make these positive changes and change the way you look at yourself and you look at the world in such a short amount of time. Because I loved the little, what was it called? Like the seminars that we had and the workshops. Those were super eye opening because that was not just previous contestants talking about pageants, it was them talking about life and how to be a more productive person, how to accomplish your goals, not necessarily pageant goals, but just your goals in your life. And I think there was a lot that you could take away from that because I was taking notes almost the entire time. I was like, yes, this is a gold mine of information.
Yeah, me too. And like even sitting in the room during Miss Queen Teen Alberta and Miss Queen Teen Alberta all together, when I was sitting in that room with those girls during their seminars, you can see the growth. You
Hmm.
can see everyone's motivation to make change. And it's such a strong group of women in both the Queen Teen system and personality pageant system. It's so crazy. And like sitting there hearing everyone's platform, you're like, oh, I never looked at it that way. Like I've never
Hmm.
looked at some of these things that way, and it just changed my perspective, and it's making me a better person altogether. Like this is the best thing to come from pageantry. It's not only the sisterhood you create, but it's these bonds and the things that you're learning.
Hmm. And what advice would you say that you would give to our upcoming Miss Teen Personality provincials or even the nationals delegates?
Truly, don't take it for granted.
Hmm.
In person, you have around 3 days to be with everyone. You have 3 days to have this life experience. With regionals, you have a month or two, even. I'm not even sure what our days look like this year, but you have that time to experience all of this. Just take it all in. Don't take it
Hmm.
for granted. You can't take any single one of these moments for
Exactly.
granted. Even as a title holder, I've looked back and I'm like, gosh, there's so much that's gone on, and it's like I'm so happy that I haven't taken any of this for granted because you learned with it. The
Hmm.
biggest thing is like coming into pageant week or your competition in general, being like, okay, whatever happens, happens. We're gonna have a good weekend. We're gonna have fun. I'm gonna be me. And that's the
Hmm.
biggest thing. Like you can't come in and be like, oh, everyone's my competitor and oh, these judges are so scary and I have to do this, this, and this to do this right. My hair needs to look like this. It's like just be you.
Hmm.
Come in with that positive, radiant attitude, and I promise you, you'll have the best
Hmm.
time of your life in these
Yeah.
competitions.
I feel like the most important thing that you said is I'm just going to be me. Because it's easy to look at a pageant and then think about, okay, I want to be exactly like these previous title holders so that I can win the crown, right? And personality pageants hasn't been going on for that long, but I've still seen people try to emulate somebody else and not try to be who they are. Because the way I think about it is if you try to emulate somebody else, you can only ever be a second rate version of that person, but you can always be a first rate version of yourself.
Absolutely. Like the biggest thing is that everyone's looking for something different. We've had certain
Hmm.
title holders before. We've had certain title holders do specific things. We've had them look a certain way. The thing is to be you. We're
Hmm.
not looking for the paper copy of someone else because they've had that title holder. They want someone that's completely different. And even if that's just in your attitude, you
Hmm.
just need to be different in some way and just be you because if you're being someone else, you're not going to have a good experience. You're not going to do well. Like my biggest thing was my first two pageants, I was coming in trying to be our past title holders.
Hmm.
Like coming from personal experience, you just need to, you know, don't look at social media.
Yeah,
Like
that's
look
smart.
at what you need to, do your research, but do not like pinpoint every single thing about a title holder and be like, oh, I need to change this, this, and this about myself so that I'll be a good title holder.
Hmm. And when it comes to don't look at social media, I don't think that just applies to looking at previous title holders. That's also applies to don't try to look at your competitors as though they're competitors, right? Don't go through their social media and think, oh my goodness, I'm up against this person, or oh my goodness, look at this person. I don't like them so much. Like, don't do that. Go to the group chat, try to learn more about them, try to actually make friends because when you do that, then your whole perspective will change. It won't be, I am competing against these girls. It'll be, I'm running my own race and they just happen to also be here. And what's most important as well when it comes to the way you look at previous title holders is looking at them and thinking, what are some attributes of them that I would like in myself? So, are they good leaders? Are they very responsible? Or something like that, something that you can apply to yourself, but not to change yourself, more to grow and to improve yourself. Because I've seen previous title holders, I know Emily before me, I really loved her platform and I really loved the way she was doing things. And it's good to take inspiration from previous title holders, but it's really not good to try and be like them, because you never will, and you're setting yourself up for failure, I think, when you do that.
Absolutely. Like, you can take inspiration from our title holders. I've taken inspiration
Hmm.
from, I think, every single title holder we've had, looking at, gosh, they're doing this right.
Hmm.
They are showing up to events on time. Like, those attributes and those positive things you're looking for in people, but it's the physical aspect of being like, oh, I gotta dye my hair blonde now for this. Things
Hmm.
like that I don't want people to take away from pageantry. The way you normally think of it is like, oh, I gotta look exactly like this title holder to be them in the future.
Exactly.
And the biggest thing is like, even in our group chats, it's you need to get to know everyone.
Exactly.
You're getting to know these people for the first time in your life. Come in with an open perspective on anyone. And
Hmm.
all together competing, we're all on our own paths, we're all on our own journeys, and they're just happening to cross right now. We're all
Exactly.
happening to be in the right place at the right time with the right group of people, but we're all on our own journeys by ourselves. Why compete with each other?
And I mean, who knows? You can take inspiration even from the other girls you're so-called like competing against, right? Because I remember the first time on my group chat, there were so many of us there, and it was really inspirational for me. One second, I just need to. So what I was saying was that it's important to be able to like look at the other girls and think of them as individuals. I remember when I first entered the group chat, I was hearing about all of these stories and about how much they've gone through, and I thought that was like super inspirational for me, because I thought, look at these other amazing women. Even if I don't win, I would feel very happy to lose to them. I would be happy if they got the opportunity to share their platforms, because I know that if I so called like lost, I don't like to use that word, if I didn't win that crown, then I know I can go forward and use my own knowledge and my own skills to pave another way for myself. I didn't exactly need to win that exact one title. Obviously that is the goal, but that doesn't mean that you need to be so focused on that you forget about the other people who are there and you forget about enjoying the experience.
Absolutely. I feel the exact same way. Like, even in our group chats now, like, we're still all communicating together. We're still all friends.
Hmm.
And it's so nice to have that group of women. Like, truly, I'm happy to lose if it means that someone else has the chance to tell their story.
Exactly.
It's like the objective, I think, with most of us in pageantry is it's really not to win. I don't think a lot of us come in it to win.
That's so true
I
though.
don't I never came in nationals to win. I came to and regionals for that matter. I came in and was like, let's make some change. I want to learn who I am. I want to learn more about myself. A
Hmm.
crown, amazing. They're nice. They're sparkly. They're big. They're heavy. Lovely. But you don't need one to make change.
Exactly.
Truly, the crown is nothing. It, it's truly nothing. It's just something shiny that you get to wear all the time.
Hmm.
It's not something that you need to make change. You don't need it so that you can compete. You don't need it to be friends with these girls. Like, if any of, I would have been happy, and actually, yeah, I would have been happy if any of the other girls in nationals this year would have taken my title, because everyone from nationals, and especially in regionals too, we all had something we're here for.
Hmm.
We had a reason to truly compete. We had a reason to be ourselves. I think it's one of like the strongest group of women that I've seen compete was regionals and nationals,
Hmm.
because everyone had their reason. Everyone had it figured out. I would have been so happy to see any other girl win this year.
Hmm. And I feel like if at the end of the pageant you're upset about not winning that crown, maybe think about why were you competing, right? Don't just think I need to win that crown. And thank you so much for joining me, because this was such a wonderful chat and I really loved learning more about the air ambulance service. That was something I'd never actually heard of before. That was really beautiful.
Thank
So
you for having me.